Daniel Hayes dreamed of warmth. In his dream, sunlight touched his face. Not the harsh white of ship lamps, but the soft yellow glow of Earth mornings. He smelled dust, metal, and coffee. He heard laughter somewhere far away. For a moment, he forgot the cold. He forgot the alarms. He forgot the darkness that had swallowed his ship. Then the dream broke. Cold air kissed his skin, smooth and gentle, but wrong. Too clean. Too alive. Daniel's eyes opened slowly. Stars stared back at him. Not through a window, through the ceiling itself. Blue light flowed like liquid across clear crystal, forming shapes he could not understand. The stars were closer than they should be, brighter, sharper. Like watching the universe breathe. He tried to move. His body felt heavy, weak. But alive. That thought hit him harder than fear. He remembered the failure. The sudden silence of his ship. The warning lights dying one by one. Life support failing. The emergency pod ejecting him into endless black. He should be dead. Daniel lifted his hands and froze. Bare skin. No gloves. No suit, no clothes at all. Panic rushed through him. His heart pounded as he looked down and realized the truth. He was completely naked, lying on a smooth platform that felt warm beneath him, as if it sensed his fear and tried to calm him. "Okay," he whispered, his voice weak and shaking. "Okay. Don't panic." That was when he heard footsteps. They were light. Controlled. Not human. Daniel turned his head. Just as the doors melted open without sound, they entered quietly. Tall figures with pale, almost glowing skin. Long eyes that reflected the blue light of the room. Their movements were slow, careful, like priests entering a sacred place. Alien. Every survival instinct screamed at him. Daniel tried to sit up, but his strength failed. His body trembled, exposed, helpless, unable to even cover himself. The aliens stopped. One of them inhaled sharply. Another stepped back. Then a hush fell over the room. She walked in last. She was taller than the others, her presence heavy, calm, commanding. Silver robes flowed around her like liquid metal. A thin crown rested on her head, glowing softly. Her eyes deep and bright locked onto Daniel's. She did not look angry. She did not look curious. She looked shaken. Daniel swallowed hard. I'm sorry," he said, not knowing if she could understand. "I didn't choose this. I swear." The translator embedded in the room hummed faintly, adjusting to his voice. The princess stepped closer. Every step echoed in Daniel's chest. She stopped beside him and slowly knelt, lowering herself until her eyes were level with his. The others behind her whispered urgently, but she raised a single hand. Silence returned. "You sleep without armor," she said softly, the translator finally catching up. "Without coverings. Without fear." Daniel laughed weakly. "Trust me, fear is very present right now." She didn't smile. Instead, her expression grew deeper, heavier. "In our culture," she continued, "to sleep bare in a foreign place means surrender. It means you believe those around you will not harm you. It is the greatest form of trust." Daniel's chest tightened. "I didn't know," he said quickly. "I'm human. Our emergency systems, they remove clothing to treat injuries. I was dying." She studied him closely now. His scars, his thin frame, the exhaustion etched into his face. "You were dying," she repeated. "Yes," he whispered, for a long moment. No one spoke. Then the princess did something that shocked everyone in the room. She bowed her head, not deeply, not formally, but enough to show respect. "The universe delivered you to us at your most vulnerable," she said. "And you survived." She stood and turned to the others. "He is under my protection," she declared. Gasps filled the chamber. Daniel didn't understand alien politics. He didn't understand titles or laws, but he understood one thing very clearly: alone, naked, powerless. He had been seen, and for reasons he could not yet understand. An alien princess had chosen not to look away. Daniel did not leave the room for 3 days, not because he was locked in, but because his body refused to cooperate. Every muscle ached. His head felt heavy. His skin still carried the memory of cold space. The alien healers came and went quietly, placing glowing panels near his body. Speaking in soft tones he could not understand, and always she was there. Princess Alira sat near the wall, hands folded calmly, eyes never leaving him for long. She did not stare like a scientist. She watched like someone guarding a fragile flame. Daniel noticed this slowly. At first, he thought it was coincidence. Royal duty, maybe. Curiosity. But when he woke in the middle of the dark cycle, shaking from a nightmare, she was still there. "You don't sleep?" he asked weakly. Alira turned her head. "I do, later. Because of me?" "Yes." Daniel felt something twist painfully in his chest. "You don't have to." "I know," she said. "That is why it matters." The translator made her words simple, but the meaning felt heavy. When Daniel was strong enough to stand, they brought him clothes. Soft fabric, fitted to his body, light and warm. He dressed quickly, embarrassment burning in his face. Alira looked away to give him privacy. That surprised him. "You know," he said carefully, "where I'm from, being naked isn't sacred." She nodded. "We have learned this." He hesitated. "Then why do they keep looking at me like I broke something?" Alira's eyes darkened. "Because intention does not erase meaning," she said. "You slept bare among strangers. Even without choice, the act exists." They walked slowly through long halls made of crystal and light. The ship felt alive, humming softly underfoot. Everywhere they passed, crew members stopped. Some bowed. Some stared. Some whispered. Daniel felt like a ghost walking through someone else's dream. "Am I in trouble?" he asked. "No," Alira replied. "You are complicated." That made him laugh. It came out rough and tired, but real. "Yeah," he said. "I've been told that before." They reached a balcony overlooking space. Stars stretched endlessly, painted across black velvet. Daniel gripped the railing, suddenly overwhelmed. "I should be dead," he whispered. "Everyone I knew would say that." Alira stood beside him, close but not touching. "In Sarati belief," she said, "those who survive when they should not are given a question by the universe." Daniel swallowed. "What question?" "Why?" He looked at her. "Do you think there's an answer?" She met his gaze. "I think answers are built, not found." Their moment was broken by raised voices. Several officials approached, their movements sharp, angry. One spoke harshly, eyes fixed on Daniel. "He cannot remain," the translator said. "His presence disrupts balance. He influences you." Alira straightened. "He is injured. He is a guest. He is a symbol," another argued. "Crew morale shifts. Traditions bend. This began when you stayed by his side." Daniel stepped back instinctively. "I don't want to cause problems," he said quickly. "I can leave. Just give me a ship, a map, anything." Alira turned to him, surprised. "You would leave?" she asked. "I don't belong here," he said honestly. "I never did." For the first time, pain flickered across her calm expression. The officials watched closely. Alira lifted her chin. "He stays," she said firmly. "Not because of tradition. Because it is right. And if the council disagrees?" One demanded. "Then they may challenge me," she replied. Silence fell. The officials withdrew, but the tension remained thick and heavy. Daniel exhaled slowly. "You don't have to fight them for me." "I am not fighting for you," she said. "I am fighting for choice." That night, Daniel lay in a real bed for the first time since his rescue. The ceiling glowed softly, showing distant stars. He stared upward, unable to sleep. He thought of Earth, of loneliness, of drifting through life unseen. Here, on an alien ship, wrapped in borrowed clothes, surrounded by strangers, someone had seen him at his weakest, and instead of turning away, she stayed. Daniel woke to a soft humming. At first, he thought it was a dream, but the smooth vibrations through the floor told him otherwise. The room glowed faintly blue, reflecting off the walls of polished crystal. His muscles ached from lying too long. Every joint protested. Even breathing felt heavy. He tried to sit up, but failed. His body was weak, unfamiliar. He had been drifting between life and death for so long that now being alive felt strange, almost unreal. Then he noticed her. Princess Alira. She had not moved since the moment he awoke 3 cycles ago. She sat near the edge of the platform, legs folded neatly beneath her, robes flowing like silver water around her. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, were fixed on him. Not with judgment, not with curiosity, but with care. Daniel swallowed. He had been naked when he first woke. Now he wore the clothes the healers had provided, soft and warm, but he still felt exposed. Clothing could not hide the vulnerability in his eyes. "Why are you always here?" he asked quietly. His voice cracked. It felt strange even to speak. Alira tilted her head. "Because you trust. Without knowing us, without knowing our ways. That matters." Daniel blinked. "I wasn't. I didn't know. I didn't mean." His words failed him. He gestured helplessly to his body. "This is not choice." She moved closer, slowly, with no urgency. "It does not matter. Choice or not, you were bare. You slept in our care, completely vulnerable. And you survived. That is rare, even in humans." Daniel could not stop staring. Her calm certainty, her attention without question, made his heart pound. He had spent years drifting from ship to ship, from one maintenance job to another, alone and unseen. Here, on an alien ship, in a strange star system, a princess had not only noticed him, she had stayed. The first day passed quietly. He lay on the platform, trying to regain strength. She never spoke much. She simply sat, sometimes tracing faint lines in the air, sometimes watching the distant stars through the crystal ceiling. Daniel tried to speak to the translators, but his words felt clumsy. "Do you sleep like this?" he asked at one point. She shook her head. "We do not. Exposure is dangerous, even among our people. To sleep without coverings is a sign of trust. Or surrender. You did both. That is why you are here, and why I remain." Daniel tried to understand. On Earth, nakedness was not sacred, not powerful. It was awkward, embarrassing, vulnerable. But here, he realized that his simple survival had become something extraordinary. Without meaning to, he had shown courage, even in weakness. By the second cycle, he was strong enough to walk. Alira walked beside him. Always beside him. Her presence was constant. Guards and officials whispered in the hallways. Some shook their heads. Others frowned. Daniel overheard fragments. Unthinkable, dangerous, influencing the princess. He turned to Alira. I'm not trying to influence anyone." Her gaze met his. "Intentions matter less than meaning. You slept bare in a foreign place. That act, voluntary or not, has changed the perception of you." He laughed softly, a sound brittle from exhaustion. "I just wanted to survive." She smiled faintly. "And yet, you have given others hope. And fear. That is power, Daniel Hayes, whether you understand it or not." The days stretched into cycles. He ate, rested, and regained his strength, but never alone. Alira never left. She would speak sometimes, teaching him simple words in her language, explaining her culture and their beliefs. The Serati did not sleep without coverings. They did not trust easily. And yet here she was, bridging a universe of difference, showing him patience and protection. One evening, Daniel found himself staring at the stars, his hands gripping the railing of the observation deck. He felt small, alone, but not lonely, not completely. She stood beside him, quiet, letting the hum of the ship fill the space. "I should be dead," he whispered, voice rough. "All my life. Everyone I knew. I shouldn't even be here." Elira's hand hovered near his arm. She did not touch. She never did without consent. "You are here," she said softly, her words calm and certain. "And that is enough. The universe delivered you at your most fragile. And you survived. That is not small, Daniel." He turned to her. For the first time, he saw not a distant princess, not a figure of authority. He saw someone who had made a choice to stay beside him, to see him fully, to acknowledge his humanity and fragility. Daniel closed his eyes and exhaled slowly. He felt something warm rise inside him, trust, gratitude, and fear all tangled together. In this alien ship, surrounded by beings he could barely understand, someone had seen him completely vulnerable, and had not turned away, and in that moment, Daniel realized that perhaps trust, even when given by accident, could be the most powerful thing in the universe. Daniel woke to a quiet humming and the soft glow of the ship's core. The first thing he noticed was the weight of the day. His body was stronger now, but every movement reminded him of the fragility of survival. Every step made his muscles ache. Every breath reminded him that life was not guaranteed, even now, even here. Elira was already near the observation deck. She stood in silence, staring at the stars beyond the crystal ceiling. She did not speak, did not move, but her presence filled the room more than the soft light ever could. Daniel watched her for a long moment. She seemed impossible, untouchable, yet completely devoted. He swallowed and walked toward her. "I want to help," he said quietly. "I can't just lie here while your ship, while your people, wait for someone to act." Elira's eyes flicked toward him, sharp and calculating. "Many humans are fragile," she said. "But you are not like the others. You act without thinking of glory. You act because you must. That is rare." Daniel's throat tightened. He had never been called rare before. Not on Earth, not in his family, not by friends he barely had. He shook his head. "I'm not rare. I'm scared. I'm just me." Her gaze softened. "Me is enough." Hours later, the alarm blared. A low, vibrating roar shook the ship. Daniel's stomach dropped. Red lights flooded the corridors. The Serati engineers scrambled. Voices rose, clipped and urgent, and for the first time, Daniel understood fear, not his own, but the fear of a species that had never seen this level of danger before. A reactor breach had occurred in one of the core sectors. If it reached critical mass, the entire ship could collapse in minutes. Daniel felt panic rise, but it was different this time. He was not paralyzed. His hands knew machinery. His mind knew systems. His body remembered work, repair, survival. Without thinking, he moved. He grabbed tools, traced energy lines, climbed into vents that were too small for the Serati engineers. His hands burned from the heat. Sparks flew. Smoke stung his eyes. Every instinct screamed at him to stop, to retreat, to surrender. But something heavier, something stronger, pushed him forward. He rerouted energy. Closed circuits. Bypassed systems. Sweat dripped into his eyes. His chest heaved. And then, finally, the hum of the reactor slowed, returned to its soft, steady rhythm. The ship had survived. Daniel collapsed on the floor of the maintenance shaft, shaking, burned, and exhausted. He could hear footsteps above, voices calling his name. And then soft, Elira. She was at his side in a moment, kneeling beside him. Her hands hovered over his burns, glowing panels of healing light moving automatically beneath her fingertips. She did not flinch at the wounds, did not recoil. She simply stayed. "You risked everything," she whispered. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying what her face did not. "For a human, for me?" Daniel shook his head, weakly smiling. "Not for you. For them. For the ship. For everyone who didn't know what to do." Her eyes softened. She took his hand, holding it gently. "And yet, you saved more than the ship. You saved hearts. You saved hope. That is no small act." For the first time, Daniel felt warmth he had not known in years. Not from blankets, not from food, not from lights. From her. From someone who stayed beside him, while everyone else watched from distance. When the healers finally carried him to his quarters, Alira remained. She did not leave. She pulled a chair close and simply sat, silent, her gaze never leaving him. Daniel lay back, exhausted, and for the first time allowed himself to be completely vulnerable again. "Do you ever sleep?" he asked softly. "Later," she said, a small smile breaking through her calm. "I cannot leave you yet. Not after this." Daniel closed his eyes. And when he finally drifted into a restless sleep, he felt her presence like a shield around him. Not just protection, but understanding, acceptance, something human he had not known before. Something alien, yet familiar. The next day, he woke to quiet applause. Engineers nodded in respect. The council watched in silence. And through it all, she remained at his side. The princess who had once found him bare and helpless now saw him fully brave, human, flawed, alive. Daniel realized, in that moment, that his survival had become more than survival. It had become a bond. A trust forged not in words, not in ceremonies, but in action. And he knew, deep in his chest, that this bond, fragile, strange, impossible, would not break easily, because a human heart had chosen courage. And an alien princess had chosen to stay. The council chamber was colder than Daniel expected. The walls, smooth and pale, stretched high above his head. Blue lights pulsed faintly, reflecting off crystal panels. At the center, a circle of Serati elders sat, their long robes glinting with silver threads. Their eyes were sharp, calculating, unblinking. Daniel felt like an intruder, though he had done nothing but survive. Alira stood beside him, calm, regal, unwavering. Her silver robes glimmered in the soft light. She did not hold his hand, did not touch him. But the simple fact that she remained at his side felt like a shield against the weight of the council's gaze. "You have endangered tradition," one elder said, voice like breaking glass. "By your presence, human, you disrupt our customs. You influence the princess. That is unacceptable." Daniel's stomach knotted. He opened his mouth to speak but found nothing. He was not prepared for politics. Not for alien law. Not for speeches meant to sway hundreds of years of culture. Alira raised a hand. "I am aware," she said. Her voice was steady, unwavering, carrying weight beyond Daniel's understanding. "And yet I declare he remains under my protection." The chamber erupted. Voices clashed, some loud, some sharp whispers. Daniel tried to follow. Words like disgrace, danger, and unthinkable reached him in fragments. He felt exposed again, not in body this time, but in spirit. He had no armor here. Nothing but himself and the fragile bond he shared with Alira. One elder leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Your Highness, you cannot act alone. The council cannot allow such preference. Tradition demands separation, not closeness. The human is a symbol now. A symbol of weakness, or worse, influence. You risk the Empire's stability." Daniel swallowed hard. His voice cracked, small but honest. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't want to influence anyone. I survived. I did what I could." The chamber was silent for a heartbeat, and then Alira spoke. Her words were simple, measured, and full of power. He did not come here to manipulate. He came here because the universe delivered him at his weakest, and he acted as any living being would he survived. That is all that matters. The elders exchanged glances. Murmurs spread like a wave. Daniel felt the pressure of centuries of tradition bearing down on him. He had no claim to authority, no right to stay. And yet, Alira's presence made him feel as though he did belong, even if only barely. Proof matters, another elder said, voice dripping suspicion. Proof that your judgment is not clouded, that your choice is not desire. Alira's eyes darkened. I do not choose him for desire. I choose him for trust, for courage, for truth. In his most vulnerable state, he showed strength I have rarely seen in my people. That is reason enough. Daniel wanted to speak again, but the words stayed lodged in his throat. Instead, he looked at her. She had removed her crown, and the silver circlet gleamed faintly in her hands. Gasps filled the chamber. No princess had ever removed her crown before addressing the council in such a manner. I choose him, she said, voice firm and unwavering. Not as a pawn, not as a symbol, but because he earned trust when trust was most difficult to give. He stayed alive, and he stayed honest. That is why he remains. The chamber erupted again. Some whispered, some shouted, some shook their heads in disbelief. Daniel felt dizzy. He had never imagined a human could face an alien court and survive. And yet, here he was, standing, breathing, alive, with Alira by his side. Your Highness, one elder finally said, voice quieter, reluctant. If you choose to protect him, the council cannot stop you. But this is unprecedented. The consequences. Alira met his gaze, calm and resolute. Consequences exist. They are nothing compared to what is right. Daniel's chest tightened. His heart pounded. He had survived space, fire, fear, and pain, but nothing had prepared him for this. Yet as he looked at her, standing fearless before the council, he felt a warmth he had never known. Protection, acceptance, a promise. Unspoken, but real. The council slowly quieted. Words died in mouths. Decisions that had once seemed unmovable shifted under her presence. A human naked, once helpless, unknown had survived not by force, but by choice. And an alien princess had chosen to honor that choice. Daniel exhaled weakly, but with relief. The weight of judgment lifted, if only partially. He had faced the alien court and survived. Not because of politics, not because of luck, but because he had been seen fully and someone refused to look away. Alira stood close now, her hand hovering near his shoulder, a silent gesture of protection. Daniel realized that survival alone had not been enough. It was courage, trust, and connection that had saved him from more than death. It had saved him from being invisible in a universe that often forgot humans existed at all, for the first time. Daniel understood that some bonds were stronger than laws, stronger than tradition, and stronger than fear. And this bond between a fragile human and an alien princess was unbreakable. Even under the scrutiny of 1,000 years of history, Daniel paced the quiet hall outside the council chamber. The soft hum of the ship vibrated through the crystal floors, a constant reminder of life continuing, of systems working, and of decisions made that could not be undone. Alira followed silently, her presence steady and calm. She did not speak, but Daniel felt her weight beside him, as if her certainty could anchor his restless thoughts. I should go, he said finally, voice low. There's a ship, isn't there? A way back to human space? To Earth? Alira did not turn. Yes, she said simply. It is ready for you. You may leave any time. Daniel stopped. He stared at her, searching her eyes for a trace of command, of insistence, of expectation. But there was nothing. Only truth. Only choice. Why are you here then? He asked quietly. Why do you stay? You could go. You have everything, your empire, your people, your crown. Why choose to stay with me? Her gaze softened, and she finally looked at him. Because trust is rare. Because courage and vulnerability is rarer. Because you have shown me what is real. I do not stay for duty, nor for ceremony. I stay because it is right. Daniel swallowed. The words felt heavy, unfamiliar. He had spent years moving from one place to another, avoiding attachments, avoiding responsibility, avoiding people. And now here he was, offered a choice he had never imagined. He thought of Earth, of the empty streets, the lonely apartments, the people who never noticed him. He thought of survival alone. It had always been enough. Survival had been his goal, his shield. But now, survival alone felt small, meaningless even. Alira stepped closer. I do not ask you to stay, she said softly. I cannot force choice. Trust must be free, even when the heart wishes it were otherwise. Daniel closed his eyes. The soft light from the ship's crystal ceiling bathed them both in gentle blue glow. He remembered the moment he had woken naked, exposed and terrified. He remembered her eyes wide but steady when she had chosen to stay beside him. He remembered the counsel, the judgment, the disbelief. And he remembered the first time he had walked the halls, and she had been there, silently, patiently, without demand. I could go, he whispered, voice trembling. I could leave, see Earth again, go back to the life I know. It would be easier. Easier does not mean right, she replied. Her voice was soft, yet it carried the weight of certainty. Courage is found not in escape, but in presence. Not in solitude, but in trust. Daniel took a deep breath. He had never felt more unsure. But for the first time, the uncertainty felt alive, meaningful, full of possibility. He stepped closer to her. I'll stay, he said quietly. Not because I have to. Not because I owe anything. But because, his voice caught, because being with you feels like life. The kind of life I never thought I could have. Illyra's lips curved slightly, just a hint of a smile, and she reached out to gently place her hand over his. The warmth of her touch sent a shock through him. Then you stay, she said. And together we will face what comes next. The halls of the ship seemed brighter. The hum of life beneath their feet no longer felt mechanical. It felt like a heartbeat, steady and true. Daniel realized that he had not only survived the vacuum of space, the cold of fear, and the judgment of 1,000 alien eyes. He had survived loneliness itself. And in staying, he had chosen more than life. He had chosen connection. That night, they walked the observation deck together. Stars stretched endlessly, infinite and distant. But for the first time, Daniel did not feel small. He felt seen. He felt safe. He felt something that human words could barely describe, a sense of belonging he had never imagined possible. I never thought I'd find this, he said softly. Not on Earth, not anywhere. But here, with you. Alira squeezed his hand lightly. Sometimes the universe places us where we are needed most, she said. Not for duty, not for fate, but for truth. And now we are here together. Daniel nodded. The weight of leaving vanished. The fear of choice melted into something stronger, deeper, and warmer than he had ever known. He was no longer a survivor alone. He was a man standing beside someone who had seen him at his weakest and chosen to stay. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt fully alive. The calm of the ship was shattered by alarms. Red lights bathed the corridors, warning pulses shaking the crystal floors. Daniel's chest tightened as he felt the vibrations beneath his feet. Something was wrong, something bigger than a reactor malfunction. The bridge scrambled. Orders flew like sparks, sharp and urgent. Illyra appeared at his side, her face pale, her calm replaced by a tension that made Daniel's stomach churn. "Enemy fleet," she said, her voice low but steady. "They are beyond our sensors. Moving fast. Our shields may not hold." Daniel felt fear rise, the old kind that had visited him countless times in drifting ships and isolated stations. But this time, fear was not paralyzing. It fueled him. His hands clenched instinctively. He had survived naked in alien halls. He had survived judgment, betrayal, and despair. This was just another problem to solve, another machine to understand, another life to save. He ran to the control center. Panels flashed with warnings. Engineers shouted in a language he barely understood, gestures wild with panic. Daniel ignored their fear. He focused. He traced energy flows, recalculated shield power, rerouted weapon systems, and patched communications with the precision he had learned from years of maintenance work on Earth. "Daniel," Illyra called softly. "They are. Many. Too many." "I know," he said. "But numbers don't win battles. Strategy does." She studied him with wide eyes, the weight of worry in her gaze. But she did not stop him. She had seen him survive worse. She trusted him. The enemy fleet appeared on the view screens, sleek, dark vessels moving like shadows against the stars. The Serati defenses flickered and shuddered under the first volleys of attack. The council commanders hesitated, their confidence faltering in the face of this unexpected threat. But Daniel did not hesitate. He climbed into the tactical panel, hands flying over controls, rerouting shields manually, recalculating attack vectors, predicting the enemy's moves. Sweat burned his eyes. Sparks from overloaded consoles stung his fingers. The room smelled of ozone and fear. And then Illyra appeared beside him, silent support in the chaos. "Do what you must," she whispered. Daniel felt a sudden clarity. He was no longer just a human far from home. He was a problem solver, a protector. He did not have the skills of a Serati warrior, but he had instinct, courage, and understanding of systems. And he had someone who believed in him without question. Hours or perhaps minutes passed. Time lost meaning. Daniel worked relentlessly. Every decision counted. Every second mattered. He rerouted shields, misled the enemy sensors, and deployed decoy drones that the alien fleet did not expect. The Serati crew watched in awe as the human male moved with precision and focus no one had anticipated. Finally, the enemy hesitated. Their ships slowed, confused by unpredictable maneuvers. Serati weapons found their marks. Shields held. Slowly the tide shifted. By some miracle of courage and calculation, the fleet withdrew, retreating into the darkness of space. Daniel slumped in his chair, exhausted beyond measure. His burns from earlier days stung, his muscles ached, his lungs burned, but he was alive. The bridge erupted in a mix of relief, awe, and disbelief. Crew members whispered, some applauded, some simply stared at him. Illyra knelt beside him, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. "You always stand bare," she said, voice trembling slightly. "Before the universe, before fear, before the impossible. And yet, you survive." Daniel looked up at her. For the first time, he realized something. This was not about survival alone. It was about trust, courage, and connection. The same bond that had kept him alive in alien halls now had saved countless lives. And she had been there all along, silent witness, anchor, and companion. He smiled weakly, exhausted but full. "Guess that's just human," he said. Illyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "No," she whispered. "It is you. You are more than human in this moment. You are courage itself." That night, Daniel lay in his quarters, the hum of the ship comforting instead of mechanical. Illyra sat beside him once again, her presence warm, steady, unyielding. He felt her hand brush against his arm, not a touch of command, but of reassurance. For the first time in his life, Daniel understood that bravery was not measured in armor, in weapons, or in numbers. It was measured in action when everything feared collapse. And trust could be more powerful than any fleet, any law, any universe. He closed his eyes, feeling the gentle warmth of her presence, and whispered into the silence, "Thank you for staying." She pressed her hand lightly over his. No words were needed. They had already spoken 1,000 truths through courage, survival, and quiet choice. And together, for the first time, Daniel and Alira knew that whatever came next, they would face it side by side. Years passed, but Daniel never left. Earth remained a distant memory, a blue dot swallowed by stars, yet he no longer longed to return. He had found something far rarer, belonging. Alira stayed beside him, not out of duty, not for ceremony, but because she had chosen to. Every day, they walked the halls together, their steps quiet but full of presence. The ship hummed beneath them, alive with light and energy, a reflection of the bond they had forged. Serati children would later ask questions, their wide eyes innocent and curious. Why does the princess always stay beside a human? Alira would smile, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face, and tell them the story of the night a man woke naked, alone, and terrified on her ship, of the courage he never knew he had, of the trust he gave without knowing its power, and of a princess who refused to look away, even when every tradition told her she should not. Daniel often walked among the crew, teaching them human skills, showing them ways to approach problems with logic mixed with instinct. He was no king, no commander. He was just a man. Yet, through his choices, his courage, his willingness to act when the impossible demanded it, he became a symbol proof that even the smallest humans could matter in a vast universe. Alira remained his constant. She walked beside him in the command halls, sat beside him during council discussions, and often leaned lightly on his arm as they observed the stars. To the people of the Serati Empire, this was unprecedented. A princess had chosen a human, and that human had earned respect, trust, and a place beside her not through force, not through ceremony, but through character. Daniel sometimes thought of Earth late at night, staring through the crystal ceiling at constellations unfamiliar and breathtaking. He remembered lonely streets, empty apartments, and people who had never seen him. But those memories felt distant, like another life. Here, he had been seen completely, in fear and weakness, and he had been accepted. That acceptance had changed everything. One evening, the ship passed through a nebula, light streaming like liquid rain through the crystal walls. Daniel and Alira stood on the observation deck, hand in hand, watching colors swirl and pulse around them. "Do you ever regret staying?" he asked quietly, though he already knew the answer. Alira shook her head. "Never. This," she gestured at the stars, the ship, their shared life. "This is real. Not tradition. Not law. Not ceremony, real." He squeezed her hand gently. "I never thought I could feel this. Alive, not on Earth, not anywhere. But here with you I do." Years turned into decades, and their story became legend among the Serati. Young humans and aliens alike learned of the man who arrived naked, alone and afraid, and the princess who stayed beside him. The tale was not about power or conquest. It was about trust, courage, and choice. It was about a human heart standing bare in an alien world, and a princess recognizing its worth, even as the universe shifted around them. Even as stars died and new ones were born, Daniel and Alira remained side by side. They faced threats together, challenges together, and victories together. Through every danger, every obstacle, every moment of doubt, they had each other. The bond they had built was stronger than law, stronger than tradition, stronger than fear, and in that strength, Daniel understood something he had never known before. Heroism was not about armor, weapons, or battles won. It was about seeing, about staying, about choosing to remain when the universe demanded you leave. It was about courage in the simplest, most human form. When new generations asked about them, Illyra would smile and say, "The human trusted us with his life before he knew us. And I stayed, because I trusted him back. That is all that matters." Daniel would stand beside her quietly, heart full, watching the stars. He had never been ordinary, not really. His choices had rippled through an empire. His courage had shaped the lives of thousands. And his humanity had changed an alien world forever. And the story ended not with battles won, not with titles gained, but with two beings standing together, hand in hand, proof that trust, courage, and love could bridge galaxies, species, and worlds. The universe was vast, cold, and often unkind. But sometimes, just sometimes, it rewarded those brave enough to stand bare and face it. Daniel had done just that. And Illyra had chosen to stay. And that was enough to change everything.